We are creating a non-objective artwork using 3 watercolor techniques. When we're done, we'll be putting our contour line drawings on top. So you want to be conscious of the colors you're using. Always wake up your watercolors before you get started. So I'm adding just a little bit of water to each section. I'm focusing on the oil pastel wax resist. So what that means is that where I have done oil pastel, the watercolors are not going to cover up. I think for mine, I'm going to use cool colors. So I'm going to use the blues, greens, and purples. I'm going to grab my blue here. Ballerina brush, I'm keeping my brush on its tiptoes. And you can see as I go over the purple stripes that the watercolors just kind of go around it. You want to make sure you get the white covered, but you're not going to cover up the purple. We want to see the purple oil pastel that I did. Please pause the video, do your oil resist sections, and then come back to join me for the salt technique. So I'm going to continue. I'm going to pick a new section and I'm going to just paint with my watercolors, and you're going to want it to be a little bit watery and you don't want it to dry on you. So while it's wet, I'm going to take my salt and do just a little sprinkle. Think of little sprinkles on a cupcake. If you get too much salt, you're not going to see the effect. The salt kind of draws some of the watercolors in, so you get some lighter areas and you get some darker areas. Okay, little baby sprinkles, don't pile it all on, but you are going to leave the salt on there until after it dries. When I take it off the drying rack, then I will kind of scooch all of the salt off. But if you have put too much salt on there, or you have too much paint and not enough water, then the paint acts as glue and I'm not going to be able to get the salt off. So more water, the better. Pause the video, go ahead and try the salt technique out on one of your sections, and then come back and join me for the last technique. Our final technique is called wet on wet, wet paint on wet paper. So the first thing I'm going to do is wet my paper down. I'm just going to get that section that I'm going to be painting on wet. If it dries on you before you get the paint on, you're not going to really see the technique work as well. So I want to keep this area nice and wet. And now I'm going to go in and get my colors. And I'm just going to kind of drop it on and it's going to spread out. I could do a little bit of a line, but I don't just want to paint it, color it in, or you're not going to see the effect. So I'm just going to kind of get some blue on here. It really kind of creates like this tie-dye effect as it like spreads out. You can combine colors, so I'm going to go ahead and get some purple on here too. It's not going to go past my oil pastel there. I want you to try out the wet on wet technique. Those are the 3 techniques that we're going to cover: wax resist, salt, and wet on wet. Make sure you've tried all 3 of those, and then you can fill in the last 3 however you'd like. If you love one of those techniques a little bit more, maybe you try and experiment with that a little bit more, or maybe you combine some of those techniques. Those are going to be up to you.